Hello, filmmakers, and welcome to the Wedding Film School Show, a podcast dedicated to the craft, business, and personal aspect of running a wedding film brand. The Wedding Film School Show is hosted by myself, Jared Haskell, and my longtime business partner, Jason McCutcheon. If you're looking for free resources or to get your wedding film business off the ground, make sure to check out weddingfilm.school or check us out on Instagram for news, giveaways, and more. Okay, today we're talking about a controversial subject, likely. We aim to offend, right, Jay?
Yes.
And today we're going to be talking about the Olivia Culpo wedding to Mr. Christian McCaffrey and why everyone watching the film and complaining online about it not being a good wedding film, how those people probably wouldn't have done any better. Actually, they probably would have done a lot worse. So, quite the intro.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
So this is a celebrity wedding, right? And so couple things that I'll just put out as a premise just before first of all, Mr. Aaron Novak, I don't know this man. I'm sorry to this man. I don't know him. I have seen his films. I'm not a fan or an anti-fan. I don't really have a big opinion on Aaron Novak's films, but here's the deal. We're not talking specifically about Aaron Novak as a filmmaker at all. So if you think we're going to do that and that's what this is about, it's not.
Yeah.
We're not here to really diagnose the film or break it down into its qualities. Particularly, what we really want to talk about is the conditions that go into celebrity/luxury events, and maybe some of the things that people don't understand about them, and how when people come online and they run their mouths, sometimes deservedly, like I understand the frustration when you see some of this work, and as an artist, as a storyteller, it can feel vapid. It can feel kind of empty. You know, you're not digging in, you're not getting the best possible shots. There's a lot of things, like, as a filmmaker, left to be desired. I think you'll see that across the board at super high-end events. And so the question is, why is this the case? Why is it that I heard this said a lot, Jared, and I'd love to hear your take on it. Like, people talk about, like, the luxury film industry or luxury weddings, not just films, but weddings in general, the industry of luxury events, which is way bigger than the wedding, right? Like, luxury weddings, there are massive financial and political and personal and marketing, like, interests in these events. There's fashion that, like, brands that get involved. There's magazines that are getting involved. There's really, really wealthy people that can have everything. They're so much bigger than just I'm shooting a wedding. And they're bigger than your film, and they're even bigger than, this seems like a little bit, I know some people won't like this, but they're even bigger than just those people's marriage and their love. Maybe not bigger, but there's a bunch of things that have to happen concurrently. And I think a lot of people, when they criticize these events, because they end up looking kind of samey, like, they're like, why is no one doing anything different and unique and special? And you're like, if you haven't been around these events and you're saying this, I don't think you know what it's like, and I don't think you know what you're talking about. And honestly, probably you wouldn't be allowed to shoot that event. And if you did, by some stroke of luck, with the values that you have and the way that you want clients to bend to your process, if you somehow snuck in the door with that event, you wouldn't be able to make the film that you normally make at that event. And why is that? And I think that's the really purpose of this episode, is not to criticize that particular film, but it's kind of just like a jumping off point.
Hey guys, Bobby popping in quick to let you know that this episode of the podcast was brought to you by Tamron. Providing filmmakers with the perfect mix of performance and value, Tamron has every type of lens to fit your needs. With their moisture-resistant construction, close focusing abilities, 6-year warranty, and remarkable optical performance, Tamron lenses can help you upgrade your wedding films. I know I personally keep the 28-75 2.8 in my bag, and I often reach for it on a wedding day. So send them some love for making this episode possible. Check out some of their lens options in our gear link below or at www.tamron-americas.com.
Yeah. When we first started, you and I, we quickly realized that we would not be able to do deep level storytelling for every single wedding film, right? Just because not everyone is going to be super interesting. Like, some people are really scared in front of the camera.
In doing it.
Yeah, all the things. So pretty quickly we were like, hey, we're doing now 30, now 50, now 70 events in a year, now a lot more. What type of film can we make that encompasses all of these, that we don't have to go back to the drawing board on every single film and try to come up with some story every single time outside of most wedding days are identical. Like when it comes down to it, like the timeline looks pretty much the same. Are they doing a first look? Are they not doing a first look? But you could pretty much build out someone's wedding day by that little amount of information. When does the ceremony start? I can build out someone's entire timeline based on that and knowing if they have a first look or not. So for the most part, the story is already there. When you get into this world of the luxury space, the rules change in a lot of ways. So the person who's maybe like used to shooting a lot of like country club weddings or venue weddings, they're used to having a certain level of access to their couples. You get into the luxury space and you quickly realize those rules don't apply to you anymore. And you're kind of like expected to raise the quality of your film while having a lot less ingredients to be able to work with. And so that's why those people have to be the most talented. And, you know, I think the reason why this kind of conversation, why we wanted to have this conversation was I saw a lot of people online talking about, you know, not my style of film, not my favorite. Honestly, why did they do this? Camera shake, blah, 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 blah. All these things, like criticizing this luxury filmmaker who, you know, I see Aaron's work and it's great. He's worked with wonderful celebrities. I think he did Patrick Mahomes' film.
He's been there.
He's been there, and he's been doing it for a really long time, and just been working with the best of the best often. And so,
at the good old Ocean House.
yeah, and I have a ton of respect for anyone who's in that market because, you know, in order for them to be there, they're having to go through it, and in order to get there, they've had to really create some really interesting, good pieces of work. And so I guess my defense of you know, Aaron it is looking at Christian McCaffrey's wedding and Olivia Culpo's wedding. I just know, working with a high-end photographer, imagine how much time you're going to have as a luxury filmmaker.
Yeah, you think you as a filmmaker are going to take time away from Jose Villa?
Right. So this is a little bit about the wedding. Let's kind of like draw this big wedding that happened in Rhode Island. The reason why it's interesting to me is because I live in Rhode Island. We shoot the venue often, a couple times every year. And
it's Ocean House, if you don't know. It's probably the most high-end hotel in Rhode Island.
In Rhode Island, yeah. And it's like old money and a lot of the things. Literally, Taylor Swift's house is right there. It's a big thing for a small state.
One time I went to Ocean House, Jared, and I had to fly drone. It was like a last-second thing. They're like, you need to go, like, forget the situation. But I had to go fly some drone. And so I rent to fly drone. I was wearing like a polo. I wasn't like dressed like a total slob.
Yeah.
They literally, if you're on that property, you have to wear, like, I think you have to wear a button-up shirt and a tie. And they made me leave.
Yeah.
Like
they're like, and also no walking on the croquet field there.
Just a lot of stuff. It is like the muckiest of muck place. It's very beautiful and nice.
This wedding that happened in Rhode Island, the whole thing was bought out by Vogue. They had the exclusive rights to it. Lisa Vorsey was the planner. Jose Villa was the photographer. Aaron Novak was the filmmaker. And so no one was able to post anything until Vogue posted. So, you know, in this kind of situation, I can only imagine, I don't have like the inside scoop, but I can only imagine that photography is going to have complete right away.
Well,
why?
Not
Why
just
is
that? They probably, I don't know this in this case, but it is very typical in these weddings that they not only have Jose Villa, but Vogue sends their own photographers.
Potentially. That's usually more like People magazine.
Or whoever it is.
Yeah.
Well, but I remember the Beckham wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing there was 15 photographers.
Right. So
and they sent their own film crew. That was from the network.
Yep.
So that is pretty normal at these celebrity events. Is not only are you competing like with a photographer, but you're competing with paparazzi photographers and publishing filmmakers, and like there's a ton of people making content at this event.
I think it was it Dolce & Gabbana made like 3 dresses for Olivia Culpo to be able to wear. So it's an event. It's sponsored. There's money being exchanged, like big money being exchanged for services done. That's why you hire Jose Villa for $100,000, to shoot this wedding. And so when you have a lot of these like moving parts, like obviously not every luxury wedding is going to have exclusive rights bought out by Vogue. But when you have a lot of moving parts, as a filmmaker, how do you then, knowing all these things that you know and then a lot of things that you don't know, how do you still create a really great wedding film at the end of the day?
Yeah, and I mean, like,
when you have zero access.
especially when everybody's going like, you need more of their personality. You need, like, at the core of a lot of people's criticism of luxury wedding films is more.
Right.
Give me more. And like the whole point of luxury is no, you get less.
Yes.
And you get less.
And you still have to do a good job.
You better do a great job.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a little experience with this. We will give our little experience stories later and talk about what we've been learning and how we've been experiencing it. But I can tell you, like, I can't, with my level of client, make the film that a lot of people want to make. I can't imagine what like Larev or Aaron Novak or Ray Roman, like what they have to deal with.
Yeah.
Like,
if you want to go down the path of uber luxury, I think there's something to be said about, people in the luxury space or who have been into the luxury space that are creating a little bit more personal films. Alex Douglas is one of those people who's just constantly putting out films that are not just about the event. It's about the couple's wedding. And a lot of times there's barely any footage from the wedding sometimes in his films. But it's a very conscious decision that he's making to be like, I don't want to just create this film. I want to do that. But Alex is one maybe.
Well,
that
and
is doing
additionally,
that.
too, he also, I think what we're really saying is if you want to do luxury events, you have to know how to play the game. And you don't play the game by trying to make the couple bend to your will.
Yes.
And if you don't understand that, not just the couple, every other photographer, the planner, their family, the whole thing is about you fitting into the flow of what they're doing, not your film. It's not about you.
Right.
And I think what's interesting is always like when you hear storytellers who pretend like it's about the client, but it's about them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sensitive to that
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, you're telling me it's all about the client, so they better do what you want, or they better like want to cry in front of you or have this big interview, but they don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. They want to do what they're doing.
Yeah. So we didn't really get a chance to talk about my experience at Engage the beginning of the month. And this is one of my main takeaways as a filmmaker going to this huge, lavish party. If you haven't heard of Engage, that's essentially what it is for wedding filmmakers, or for
it's like
for
the luxury
wedding
event industry.
For wedding luxury event professionals. I was one of the few filmmakers there, besides the team that was actually there. And the thing that I took away was like, and it's the thing that we always say on the Wedding Film School show is like learning how to become an event professional. It goes beyond just, I want to be a great storyteller. Obviously, you want to be a great storyteller, but it's within the world of the event that's happening around you. And how do you become a better event professional to everyone who is around you? That's what's going to get you hired at the end of the day.
Yes.
It's not necessarily telling an uber unique story because, frankly, I would be shocked if any planners watch full wedding films ever.
Yeah, so let's break this down.
Yeah.
Why would they not make a better film? Like, let's kind of, do you have any of those criticisms?
Why would they not want?
No, the criticisms. Why would the filmmaker listening to this who thinks that they would have done better than Aaron not do better? Like, what are some of the bases of the criticisms?
That it's not their style of film. I don't think people dive into specifics. Yeah, like, but I've heard complaints from people that are like, hey, the wedding luxury space, the filmmakers that are making art are creating this vanilla, boring film that just shows flowers and details. It's boring. It's not about the couple at all. There's no storytelling involved. Like, I think that's the general criticism of like the luxury wedding film space.
And then when they see like one questionable, like the one shot in the film that I was I think people are poking on the most was it was like a shot of them kissing. I don't know if that was their first kiss or what it was. They were kissing and it was kind of like shaky and poorly exposed a little bit. And like, I get it. Like that, I understand. Like, I look at that and I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. I'm sure Aaron thinks the same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like,
but
dang.
You almost have to include that
You
moment.
have to include it. And the question is, what the heck was going on?
Yes.
What caused that situation to
be
the situation?
Do you think that Aaron wanted to have a shaky shot there of when they kissed? Or what do you think actually happened there?
They're walking down the aisle. There's a bunch of light on them, which means
a bunch of photographers around him.
Well, there's also
bumping into him.
There's also there's a like a always on light. Somebody is shooting. There's another person shooting that isn't Aaron.
Okay.
It looks like to me because it's blue light.
Consistent
There's
light.
like a blue constant light on.
Yeah.
Which means he probably had a literal like it looked like an Indian wedding behind him probably. Just
what is it?
An Indian wedding. You know those weddings you see in India, those big luxury events? You'll see like 20 cameras pointing at the bride and groom.
Yeah.
Like it probably was like bumping into people.
Yeah.
Like, and then it looked like Jose was like, or whoever the photographer was like, kiss.
Yeah.
Kiss now. And like, who knows? Maybe they didn't. Maybe they're like, I don't know why anyone cares about Olivia Culpo. To me, she's not like, I don't know her at all. So I don't understand what her thing is. So this is not a criticism of Olivia Culpo, but who knows? Maybe Olivia Culpo said, I refuse to kiss you on this stage for some reason.
Sure.
And she didn't. That was their actual first kiss.
That's like saying, I don't know why anyone cares about Vogue magazine.
I don't know who Olivia.
Yeah,
I'm saying I don't know who she is.
Sure.
So I'm not saying that as a way of saying she's a snob and everyone knows it or something I know about her.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like she could have said like I'm not kissing on the stage. It's not my good side.
Yeah.
And then they get down the aisle and she told Hosea like, oh, I'll only kiss down here because I feel like I look better. So like.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of weird things that you don't know that can happen at these events. And so even that shot, I'm like, my thought was, yeah, that doesn't look the best. That kind of sucks. I bet no one told him what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet he was tripping or something trying to get this shot.
Yep.
And the thing I didn't like about it was that gross blue constant light, which I don't assume is his. If it is, I don't like how it looks. But that's just me.
Yeah.
But like, there was a lot of issues with like, so like.
And is there anything that you could have done to make that a better situation?
Maybe shoot wider, but maybe you can't.
Maybe you can't. Maybe it's literally like you're in the middle, and it's an ideal world. It would be you and Jose Villa, and you're walking down the aisle, the two of you, and one person's able to get the shots, the other person's able to get the other shots. But then and this is, say you even had a production meeting beforehand with Jose,
which I'm sure you didn't,
and with the couple. Say all this idealized stuff happens that, like, in our minds we'd be like, if I had that, I would be so organized and I would do X, Y, and Z. Maybe you would, but probably it didn't happen. But say that did happen, and you had that meeting, and all the idealized situations were set up, and then the Vogue photographer out of nowhere who wasn't there has to get his shot because his editor's going to be mad at him.
Literally pistol whips you with his camera.
Exactly. and you know, like, things, that's the unforeseen side that I mentioned. That's just like, or like, dude, these girls with cameras, like with their phones sticking out in the thing. Everyone at this wedding has their phone out, right? Unless they have the Yonder bags and all this stuff.
For all you know, like
which they actually probably did have.
They
Yonder
probably
bags.
had Yonder
They
bags.
probably.
I
had
promise you,
Yonder
there's
bags.
no phones allowed at this wedding.
Exactly. But second phones are out trying to get the shot or whatever. Like, all these things can happen, and I guarantee that's what that was. You know, maybe there's somebody who said, like, why even use the shot then? You know, maybe, but also maybe he had to use it. Maybe it was like,
you just don't know the situation.
Yeah.
Is all I'm saying, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be too judgmental about that.
Yeah,
like I definitely think like it wasn't what he would consider to be his best work.
Yes,
but like, I think we can talk about like our experience,
so,
a little, because this is why people. You wouldn't have done better. Than him, because you would have. If you haven't been in that situation, you would handle it worse. Yeah. That's really what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Dive into, you know, a little bit of personal experience. And then I think what I would want to do is talk a little bit about how I would hope to be able to approach the day. And again, idealized version of like knowing kind of how these spaces work, knowing a sliver of how these type of weddings work, going into it, what my goals would be personally, and maybe what your goals would be personally, like, because I think that would be helpful as well.
So here's the things people don't understand about luxury clients. If you've never worked, it's not that they, like, I think one thing is said that isn't always true. It can be true, but it isn't always true, which is they treat you like crap. They're rude. They're dismissive. That can be true. I think what is actually always true, pretty much in my experience, is they are used to having the best. And they expect you to be the best. And if you're getting paid a lot of money, which this is reasonable, right? They actually think I'm paying you so I don't have to do any of the work, including the whole buy-in thing that you want to do with me, the dinners you want to have with me, all the crap that you want to do with me. I don't want to do it. I'd rather just pay you $24,000 and know that I don't have to do crap and you're still going to deliver the goods. That is the actual assignment.
Yes.
That is the assignment. And if you don't understand that assignment, you will, not only will you be frustrated, but you will not be able to shoot the film because you will not know what to do with yourself when you're, and so like just in the last 3 weeks, right? We shot a wedding where the client was very particular. She wanted very certain things in the film that we had to put in the film because they wanted it. And like, we're like, okay, like that, it's your film. You bought it. We put it in the film. We didn't make the exact film we exactly wanted. We made the film that we were happy with, that she was also happy with. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great decision, by the way. I don't think that was a bad decision. I think that was a great decision. And I also, like in the middle of all that, like this wasn't a celebrity wedding, but these are, I don't know if they're billionaires, but they're multi-millionaires. It was a giant wedding. You know, we shot one the other day. You remember that situation during their private vow reading, which no one told us about, by the way. Like, we even met the client. Mm-hmm. And it was fine. It was fine. We find out the day of there's private vow readings. Not the day of, but when I looked at the schedule. And we go to do the vow reading, right? And it's me, you, Shayna. We're all surrounding this couple. And first thing I have to do is go tell this great, awesome band that they can't do their sound check. Mm-hmm. Right? Hey, they didn't like that, by the way. But I just was like, listen, they're doing private vow readings. Like, please. And then I had to get the planner to help me. So that's just a whole other layer. It's a big production. Then they want to sit down. And we sit down and the bride looks at me and she's like, are you guys going to be gone? Because, like, we want privacy. And I was like, yes. You know,
Sure.
We weren't planning on being gone. Now the thing is, we were prepared for any situation. So we were able to get it. We plopped everything down with tripods. We didn't cause any delay. It was like 2 seconds of our time getting set up and we walk away. Mm-hmm. That was not what we were planning on doing.
It was worse because of it.
Yes. But it was better for her.
Yeah.
And it was better for him. And they
made the client happy. And that's kind of what this world is like, it's a customer experience. Mm-hmm. Like, we are in the service industry. Like, you are, as to luxury hotels and luxury restaurants, you know, as that's the way they see you. You are an extension of that. And so I don't think a lot of people see themselves as that, or they don't want to lower themselves to just being someone who's serving another person. Like, you're a server, mm-hmm. like, essentially.
You're in the hospitality industry.
Yeah. Like, look, if you're in that space, the art is the easy part. Like, people will hate hearing that, but like, you get to a certain point where it's like, I know how to expose a camera, dude. I know how to put together a great wedding film where if I wanted to, I could tell this couple's life story. If they would give me full access to that, we could do that great. But we are working in the luxury space, and you don't get that.
Well,
and it's just
there's so many moving parts.
So
too.
when you start removing those ingredients, it's like, now what are you left with? You still have to produce a really great wedding film. So like that can be difficult.
I mean, there's so many things I could say, and I'm not even. If you hear me and you think I'm criticizing this client, I am not criticizing this client. I have signed up for this. I am happy to do it for them.
Yes.
100%. Like, so these are things that I'm only mentioning because if you were so artsy fartsy, you might put up a fight against them. And there are little things I might put up.
And you might not just be ready for it. Like you will be you will shoot like crap because you're so frustrated all day. Like that's the thing. Like when we first did our first like mega luxury wedding, I remember at the end of the day being like, we shot terribly. We shot terribly because I didn't get what I thought I wanted. Now we went back to the edit bay and we were like, okay, we made a great wedding film out of it.
We didn't know how to make luxury wedding films at the time. We didn't know what the elements were.
Yes.
And we didn't shoot enough of the things that we really needed, and we shot too much of the things that weren't going to add a ton of value.
Yeah,
like,
and it just forces you to be a better wedding filmmaker at the end of the day in so many different ways.
But,
like your fundamentals have to be there, basically, like
you have to
basic
be
coverage.
so fast.
You have to be fast. You have to be flexible, and you have to be able to just roll with the punches in a way that you don't really have to. Like that's why when I hear like, oh, the photographer got in one of my shots, I'm like, it's so hard for me to even like empathize with this person at all. I'm like, so what, dude? So what?
You weren't planning on that?
You weren't planning on that? What are you thinking? You had 2 camera angles? What were you thinking? Like that's why it's like, it's so, if that's what's bugging you, you better gear up, man. Like, cause that's fundamentals. That's your basics.
Do you remember the sparkler explosion during the samurai sword cutting of a 7-layer cake, 7-tier cake?
Yes.
When they initially set it up, the table was in the middle of the room, if you remember.
Yeah.
And I go, great. This shot's going to be sick. We're going to get on 18 mil. You're going to get right in the middle. You're going to push. We're going to see the cake. We're going to see the couple. We're going to see explosions. It's going to be sick. It's going to be the best way to tell that story. I won't have to do a cake shot later. This will be my cake shot.
Yep.
Well, like later in the night, I see the cake on the other side. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's not going in the middle. And then they're thinking,
You mean it's not going to be in the middle of the dance floor with people dancing all around of it?
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was weird too, but I was like, that'll be a cool shot.
Yeah.
Right? For me, selfishly.
Yeah.
That would be good. Okay. But I also know I am supposed to show the cake, the couple, and the sparklers.
Mm-hmm.
I need to show all 3 elements in the frame. But it's not on center. It's off axis. And it's going to be really hard to show. So we just rolled 5 cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried 5 different things because we knew what the assignment was. We didn't say like, I have a shot in mind. Put it right there.
Yeah.
No, you can't do that. Do you remember the
I think 2 of those shots failed completely, by the way.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I also didn't know the exposure. So I actually had to expose. I was like,
Right.
how bright are these sparklers? I
Right.
didn't see them. So I exposed the cameras 3 different ways.
Yes.
That is luxury wedding filmmaking.
Yes.
Like right there in that one story is how you accommodated it in all the situations. When they were doing their dance, we find out that they're going to dance down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
So I set up a camera, which failed, by the way, also. I wasn't sure what that meant, how they're going to do it. We just shot 5 cameras. We shot them 5 different ways. Like, do you remember at the wedding, Lexi and Henry, they're going to do the dress changes, and she was going to come out of that elevator?
Yeah.
I'm talking to the planner. She wants us to set this whole thing up.
Yeah.
And all of us meant well. Middle of the wedding, I'm like, when are we going to do that shot that you wanted me to do? I'm going to go get the tripod set up. She's like, yeah, she doesn't want to do it now.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's fine. It's your wedding day. Like,
Yep.
you know, like you want to talk about being not understanding that it's a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I often think like you're the one who doesn't understand wedding filmmaker. You're not the point.
Yeah.
They're the point. And like, what if your wife was getting married and some filmmaker made her go change dresses 3 times in a certain way so that you could get the shots before you had to leave?
Mm-hmm.
Like, David, that wedding a couple years ago, we go there and I'm thinking like, oh, this guy doesn't want to talk to me. Like he's just, no, he was fine. It was this ultra luxury event, right? His beautiful event. He didn't want to do any of my posing. He didn't care about any of the poses at all. Like he was like, man, I don't, whatever. First look, like everything that we tried to do, you almost felt like he was purposely trying to ruin it.
Yeah.
Well, come to find out, that wasn't the case at all. Afterwards, the guy was just like, oh, yeah, no, this is great. Can I buy more? He was perfectly nice. He just didn't. He's like, the assignment for me as a person getting married is not to participate in your wedding film.
Mm-hmm.
The assignment for me is to host all my friends who are from multinational financial organizations around the world and make them have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
You are nothing to me. No offense. And when you put it in those terms, you're like, you know what? I am nothing. Right? Why should this person care about me?
Yeah.
Like I'm supposed to be able to do a great job with or without their participation.
Yeah.
And I think that is luxury wedding filmmaking 101.
Yeah. And the truth is, at the end of the day, like, I feel like all of our clients, they, like, in this world, like, they don't owe you anything up front. They paid you. They owe you the money that they promised you. But afterwards, after working with us, the goal is like, and actually I've seen it time and time again, like, they actually have a lot of respect for what you do.
Yeah.
Like, that client afterwards was like, this is all great. Like, we want more. I wish we would have taken it more seriously. And like, yeah, but there's no convincing
Definitely
that person
nice
up
to
front.
hear when you hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I found that to be the case, you know, a couple times this year too. Just this is awesome. This is a great experience. And you know, it's hard to convince people beforehand, but, yeah, I think it just comes down to like, you're doing a service for people. And, you know, I don't necessarily think that is necessarily that you're the help.
But you could be.
But you could be.
Like, it depends
you know.
on the wedding. You could be.
Yeah.
And like, are you okay with that? Like,
yeah.
I honestly think you got to be okay with that.
I do too. I think it's just a matter of being super prepared. Like, that is the luxury space, being prepared for anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that means having a lot of gear. Sometimes that means having 3 to 4 people. People are always like, I don't see the difference in quality between a $10,000 wedding film and a $40,000 wedding film. I'm like, it's not about that necessarily. It maybe comes down to, this event is just freaking hard to shoot. You have to have 5 people here, 6 people here who are good. Not just like, oh yeah, hold a camera and carry a bag type people. It's like people that actually know how to shoot.
We work with enough young people to know, like, there are a bunch of young people who I would not let them smell one of those events.
Yes.
Not because they're not good enough and not because someday they won't be good, but like, they're not ready.
Yeah.
They don't even understand like when to shut your mouth, let alone how to handle the stressful situations. And this is what I'll tell you. Every time we bring an inexperienced person to their first super high-end event, what do they always say? Something along the lines of.
Oh, I don't know.
They
What?
always say something like, oh man, that was way harder than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy. That's nothing like the weddings we've been shooting. And mind you, like, the weddings that we shoot on a week-to-week basis are very high-end.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like, we aren't really shooting that many like barn weddings and like.
Yeah. What we're talking about now is the difference between millionaires' weddings and billionaires' weddings, right?
Or even like,
we're talking about billionaires' weddings that we're shooting and celebrities and kind of that whole world. Like,
yes.
and honestly, some of my personal favorite films that I've shot, in terms of like having meaning to me as an artist, usually, you know, they're people that have a good budget, but they do want to interact with you a lot more.
Of course.
Like that personally, that's rewarding. Like being able to gift somebody something. But as a wedding filmmaker, if you're saying, I want to get into the luxury space, realize that's something that you're kind of giving up. Like, so a lot of people might think being a luxury wedding filmmaker is the pinnacle of wedding filmmaking. It's not going to be the case for everyone. Like, you're going to get into that space, and a lot of people, I think, might even hate it.
It's much harder to make a film that is personally and artistically satisfying for some people, depending on what your interests are.
Yep.
With way less influence and control on the process than it is to make that when you have a lot of influence and control.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, all that to say the original topic of it, which is, would you make a better film with that Olivia Culpo wedding? Chances are the very fact that you're criticizing it means you don't know what you're talking about.
Probably.
Like the fact that you don't understand, the fact that we don't know, like, and I've never shot like a real, like sometimes we have celebrities at the weddings that we're at, but we don't shoot celebrity weddings.
Yeah.
Now I have done some editing for celebrity weddings, and I've experienced the pressure that those people are under, and it is brutal. But we don't do those. So, but we do like I consider high end luxury, like luxury high end. We have brands from $2,000 to $20,000. So we do a lot of different events, and so we have a lot of experience. And like in the last 20 days, Jared, I shot 2 Huxley films, a Stop Go Love film, and a Merriment film.
We actually shot 3 Huxley films.
Did I?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying me personally.
At Ennis.
No, in the last 3 weeks. That was.
Oh, you said in the last month.
I thought you said 10 days. I don't know.
No. Yeah.
Whatever I said.
Yeah.
In a very short period of time, I
Yeah.
shot those 3 types of events. And I could tell you the difference between a Merriment film and that type of wedding, which was just people hanging out at a house.
Yeah.
Where we did a 45-minute portrait session.
Mm-hmm.
That one wedding, I did more portraits than I've done in all 3 Huxley films combined.
Mm-hmm.
No, I guess the Innis one we did a lot, but that was, but like both the last 2 weddings from the last 2 weekends, we maybe did a total of 20 minutes total of portrait work between the 2 events.
Yeah. I can tell you one of them had the most beautiful sunset that I've probably seen in a long time. We were like, do you want to go do it? And the couple was like,
did we even ask them?
I think we asked Rowie and Kristen, and they were like, no. And they were already like on the dance floor sweaty.
Yeah, it was
and
Rowie, and like I was talking to Rowie, and he's like, we're not going to do that. And Rowie knows this stuff.
Yes.
He works in these high-end events.
Yes.
When you're on these events, luckily, you will typically have people around you who are kind of telling you, this is what we do.
Right.
So I rely on that. When I'm working with people who I think are more experienced than me, whatever the vibe they're bringing, I'm like, this must be the right way to go.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
totally.
Like, and if they're not asking the couple, if they just bailed on it, they know there's no point.
Yeah. And when people are spending a lot of money on a wedding, they obviously want to get back to it more than the smaller country club wedding that they spent a lot of money on, but they also spent a lot of money on you in comparison.
Yeah, the relative investment percentage-wise.
Yeah, exactly. The relative investment of a photographer, videographer for, $1 million wedding is much less than, if you're charging $10,000 for $100,000.
I think the one
you're
that we did
10% of the budget. Yeah.
The one
probably
we did last
1%
weekend,
of the budget now.
I think that cake was more expensive than us.
Probably. Yes. Probably.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And it's one
without
of those,
a doubt, actually. Without
that was
a doubt.
crazy.
Yeah.
That was crazy. It was amazing too.
Yeah.
And so like,
which is bullshit, by the way.
Well, what's funny is it's just like, you have to, I guess I'll give people a little bit of advice. Yeah. This is what I've learned, and I'm learning. So like, I would say I'm not like fully immersed in the luxury wedding industry.
Yeah.
So we are like tweeners, admittedly so. We do great events. Our planners are amazing. The people who give us the chance are amazing. I don't say that throw any shade at people's events that we do get to work, but it's not all we do. We do a mix of events. That's why I say that, not to throw any negativity towards the great events we get to do. But what I've learned is you are much more looking for signature moments.
Yes.
And nailing those signature moments. Then you are trying to extract intimacy from the couple.
Yes.
The couple becomes characters in their world instead of your world.
Right. So I want to dive into a film that I watched a couple of years ago that I still think about. And actually seemed pretty similar in a lot of ways. Jose Villa photographed it, which is the Nick Jonas wedding. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, the East-West one.
East West. Caleb from East West.
I believe
Kaylin helped
was
with
there,
it.
And a lot of good people.
A lot of really good people were on board for that one. I think that one had a lot of really great, iconic shots. So how do you make an iconic teaser when you don't have much access?
You can't always, first of all,
Right.
Just as a first, like you can be easily frustrated in your efforts here. That being said, in my experience, limited, when we've successfully done it, we've created a shot. I always find you need to set something up that the couple can walk into naturally, not that they need to do something for you. Now, if you have a couple that's down, like I do think we bring up Alex a lot in the podcast. And I love him as a filmmaker, as a person, all that. And one of the things he does really well is knowing the difference between the couples that do that will kind of do that, and couples that won't. But to speak to the film that you were talking about, that particular film, I don't remember anything about that film except one shot. Do you know the shot?
The drone shot from up above.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of her dress. And
here's how that conversation happened, I'm assuming. This person has a cool $2 billion dress, and she has the longest train ever made by anyone. And
it had to be carried by 3 or 4 people.
And it needs to be displayed in a certain way, so you need to get a shot a certain way. I'm sure that was said.
Yep.
I don't know that they said they're going to do it on a drone, but they were just like, usually the people you're working for, including the planners, don't know how to make a film. So they don't usually suggest the shot. Maybe they do. But what they often suggest is like, that is important to all of us. And so you got to nail that. If there's some big explosion, if like the couple tells you, they'll say something like, this guy's going to come out and the introduction is going to be lit. Like, I think it's all about like taking that moment and document in a way that the things that everyone at that wedding was excited about are evident, not just to the person who was there, but because I hate to say it, a big part of this entire wedding industry is the FOMO factor. You are trying to make people watch that event and think, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
And understand, and like there's a lot of things, there's spectacles and there's like performances, there's fashion. Rarely is the moment like, okay, this is going to be a crazy moment, Jared. When you cover this wedding, I'm a wedding planner in this scenario, by the way. Like when it ends, like at the end of the ceremony, the couple is going to kiss. So make sure you cover that. Like cover that kiss. It's just going to be an iconic moment. That isn't unique. Everyone kisses. Everyone loves their spouse. Everyone has a toast. These are not unique. When you're moving into the luxury industry, the point is to do something unique. That is what will make a spectacle and will push you over the top. Remember like the floral wall at the Kim Kardashian and Kanye West wedding? Yeah. The industry runs on this stuff.
Yes.
If you don't understand that, you don't understand your assignment. Your assignment is to make money for all of us. And so you're selling fantasies to people who are getting married, who are downstream to these luxury events. The amount of times I heard from planners or from florists that year where the Kardashians got married, whenever it was, the amount of couples who are just getting married at a local country club are like, kind of like this. And they show the phone and it's the Kardashian wedding and the person's like, oh my God. That's a $250,000 floral wall. You're not getting that at your wedding. But, maybe they sold them a $10,000 small floral wall. These people are setting the trends. They're creating the whole industry that you work in. And if you don't understand that, you won't get it. And it's like, how do you create the iconic shot? Highlight something unique and special and nail it.
Yeah, something I've been doing a lot lately, which I think is really attributed to our details. Like we're doing these, I would consider these luxury weddings the last couple of weekends. So your florals are just out of control. How do you shoot florals in an interesting way over and over and over again in a way that might be different? I think that's something that's maybe hard for filmmakers moving into like the luxury space to be like, how do I get this? And I would say get super granular with it. Like show the plate, show the silverware, like show that what is different about it. Oh, this has like, it's almost like an ivory hand. It's not ivory because no one would actually do that. They would be canceled for all time. But it looks like, it looks like ivory.
Wouldn't that be the ultimate flex? Is like, we care so little about you. We're so rich that we've literally just decorated this with elephant tusks, and we don't care if you cancel us.
Yeah. But
that's real luxury.
But like luxury is all about understated details, fine details, right?
Or
so
over the
show
top
that
details.
or over the top details, but show that stuff. Like get that granular and start thinking about like how do I show this off the best way I possibly can, and get small and then get big. You know, I did a thing and I was like, this tent. I actually, in a lot of ways, don't like these Sperry tents because they have this like orange cast. But how do I shoot that tent? How do I shoot it well? It's hard to shoot. How do I shoot that tent well? And I feel like that's one thing I was like working on because we're in these tents all the time. And I'm like, I'm going to become the best at filming these Sperry tents and like shooting through things to get a wider shot. If you just shoot the thing, it's kind of boring. How do you get some foreground in there? Like,
you got to think like a designer
mm-hmm.
as a luxury wedding filmmaker. So you have to think, what is special about this?
Yes.
And not just what is special about it, but how do they correlate?
Yes.
Because the person who designed it, I remember a couple years ago.
Well, you're almost becoming a designer yourself because
you need to understand.
You're understanding what the designer's intentions were, and you need to film that a very specific way. You can't just wide shot that.
Do you remember the AE weddings we did? That bar? That beautiful ceremony we shot inside of, dang it, what was that giant building in Boston called? The crazy one with the
yeah.
Anyway, this beautiful, giant, opulent wedding. I remember that I was working with my editor, and they cut they put a shot in, and it was a cool camera move
mm-hmm.
of these hanging floral arrangements, but it didn't show the bar beneath it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, don't show that one. That's not the one. Show this one where he pulled away and there's a floral that's almost like it creates like if you connect it to the bar below, it almost looks like a pillar.
Yeah.
From floor to ceiling.
I remember shooting that and being like, this is so hard to shoot because it's so big.
That's the purpose of it.
I couldn't get the whole thing in the shot, but you get wide enough away and you're like, oh, this is so small on my screen now, but it worked.
It's the right shot. And so like the designer wasn't trying to say, look at this hanging florals. They're saying this florals are telling you where the bar is.
Yes.
That's the story. There's a design story. There's the couple story. There's the location story. There's a lot more stories you have to tell in a high-end luxury event
mm-hmm.
than there are in an event where all that matters is the couple.
Yeah. And I can tell you guys, like, if you're working in this space and you want to get planners to respect you, start talking to them about their design. Why did you set the tables up this way? That's interesting because I would think that you would want to do it this way, but I can see that you did it this way to help the flow of traffic move this direction. They're like, yes.
Here's the deal. Okay, so that's a good example. When you see a crowd control feature
mm-hmm.
built into a wedding, which is like something that will funnel the audience, and typically what they'll try to do is put something for them to do, something for them to interact with.
Mm-hmm.
So they go a certain way, they interact a certain way. That's what you film. And the big thing is like people talk about this in luxury, like it's not always true that you don't shoot the dress. I think that's a little played out. Like, oh, the dress is passé. And maybe it's becoming that way, but like in general, I hear people say all the time, shoot it on her. Shoot it on her. In certain things, you shoot like large detail, like tents and things like that. You have to shoot that without guests. Why? Because it gets ruined by the guests. Guests are putting crap everywhere, like putting their purses and all that junk.
See, I've been shooting some lately where they've messed it all up, and I kind of love the destruction of it a little bit. Certain times, it looks awesome.
But other things that you're shooting at high-end events are better with people.
Yes.
So like if there's an escort table, I prefer a shot of everyone grabbing their things. I don't want just a bunch of shots of people's names on the table. And why? The planner, it's a utility function for them. Mm-hmm. They want to show that they did something that was utilitarian in a beautiful way,
mm-hmm.
right? Like,
you know what I saw today on Instagram that was really cool? The table, what do they call them? Display cards or the table numbers. What do they call those?
Table number? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
like
an escort card.
Escort card. The escort cards were tomatoes, and they wrote, I don't think they were Sharpies. I think it must have been like some kind of edible thing, but they wrote on the tomatoes, and you would pluck the tomato off the plant and bring it to your table because it was gardening.
That's experiential.
That's cool. It was cool.
My point is, like, it's much more interesting to show someone picking the tomato
Right.
than to just show a bunch of tomatoes with names written on them.
Yeah.
Because you have one shot that tells more of a story, and it's a show that don't tell.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, that is a lot of luxury, is like, oh, there's going to be a big line of people transitioning. There's going to be a band that marches everyone. You get a drone up, right?
Yeah.
And this is the last thing I was going to say about, like, a tip / I don't know, thing I've learned. Your internal scheduling and organization, not just around what is happening, but who is going to do what and who's going to be standing where and who's going to be on what lens and what we're going to do and how it's going to be covered, becomes way more important at these complex events.
Yep.
And it's way harder to do. And if you don't have people that can memorize instructions and also read and react.
Yeah. I think a lot of filmmakers have become really good at telling, quote unquote, telling the story of a couple, right? Even where they're handing the microphone to them and they're talking about where they met or whatever. They become really good at couple interactions. And a lot of filmmakers aren't good at telling the story of the day when you get into that luxury market and luxury field. Like, what is the planner trying to do? All the connected elements that we're talking about. But also, like, I did an event a couple weeks ago, and all the waiters were holding umbrellas for the guests to come in, and they created a line of umbrellas, so all the guests going from one spot wouldn't get wet.
And that happened
under
on the
rain.
fly, right?
Happened on the fly. I saw it, and I was like, that planner's going to want to see that experience that they came up with on the fly on camera to show how good they are at creating experience.
But also, the guests and the couple are going to want to see that.
Yeah.
Because it's a value add to the couple.
Yes.
Like if you don't understand.
And it's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun. That's cool. Like, everyone was having a great. You go from it's raining outside, that sucks, to all the waiters are now holding umbrellas and they're creating a tunnel of umbrellas. Now you created this fun experience for all your guests going into the party, into the dance floor. That's freaking cool.
Yes.
Right?
And it's like, we are part of creating that experience
Yes.
and documenting that experience, not just for the bride and groom, but for the bride and groom's friends, family, and guests.
Yep.
And any guest that's attending that event is a stakeholder in that film.
Yep.
And in that wedding. And anything that you show, it's not just about the couple to the couple.
Yeah.
Now, it is about the couple to you, who you're trying to make happy. Like, you're trying more than anything to make sure that couple is pleased with what you're doing. And hopefully you get a little bit of lift for your brand and make some money in the process because it's cool and people want to book you for the next event. But at the end of the day, like, that couple cares about those guests too. So if you show the couple showing hospitality to their guests, they like that.
Yeah.
They don't want a film that makes it look like they're vain.
Right.
They want a film that makes them look hospitable.
So what do you think about when we're talking about who you're working for? And we might disagree a little bit on this in this kind of space. Who are you working for at the end of the day?
I think
Are you working for the couple?
Depends
or
on
does
how
it
you mean
change to where you're actually working for the planner? Because I know some planners who would say, you're working for me. I hired you. I'm the repeat customer. Very prominent people with education courses to photographers and filmmakers would say, you are working for the planner. And then I know other people that are like, no, you're completely working for the couple.
Depends on what you mean.
Where do you fall?
Well, I think in reality you're working for the planner, but I think in function you end up extra working for the couple because the planner doesn't want you pissing off the couple.
Right.
And so, like, for instance, only a high-end luxury event would I be forced to use a song I hate, do things I don't like. And why? Because the planner told me to do it because they didn't want to get in trouble with the client, which I understand.
That's what I would say too.
Like in reality, you're working for the planner in a lot of ways because that couple is never going to say like, you got to hire Huxley Film. They're just going to be like, man, okay, now I'm moving on. Like now I'm off to like, I'm going to just spend 3 weeks in Turks and Caicos.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't even remember what's their name? This guy, Jordan shot my wedding.
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying like, I'm sure there are some people who really love it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just kind of think of it.
I think you still are working for the planner, but working for the planner means making the couple happy so they don't have to
more service.
deal with it.
It's higher level of service.
Yes.
That's what I mean. Is like, I don't think working for the planner means what I think some people think it means.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you make a film of just florals.
Right.
Because the planner wouldn't like that because the couple would not like it.
Right.
So the planners...
They would have to field a phone call. And dude, if you want to make a planner pissed off...
Especially a luxury planner.
Make them have to deal with a wedding that's done after the wedding, after it happens. Like, you want to piss someone off, like, oh, I still have to deal with this couple. Like, I thought this day was done. I'm already on the next event. Now I'm having to field a phone call because the videographer refuses to throw in a shot of grandma.
Yeah, if you're constantly like
whatever,
dying on some creative hill, you're just dead.
Yeah.
You're dead. Like, that planner's never going to work with you again.
Yes.
Like, if you offend the client, the planner's never going to work with you again.
Yep.
If you disrupt them at all, like, I've had weddings where I've put my foot down on some things, and I've had to say to the planner, like, I'm sorry if you don't like this. I have to. Only thing I put my foot down, honestly, is just, I'm not going to do free work. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to do what you want.
Right.
Now you can buy it from me, but, you know. Like,
but also, I feel like most professional planners, in most cases, would be like, I don't expect you to work for free. That is something they would put their foot down. We are always going to be like, we'll do whatever. Like, we will do whatever to make the client happy.
That person I talked to about earlier, like David, wanted an hour-long film, which I don't really like. I don't think that's a great product.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, I'll just pay you whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And we made it. Not just because he wanted it, but because I knew how important this relationship was to the planner.
Yes.
And I wanted her to continue to get leads from that circle of people. I didn't want them to think that the last thing I want is someone to put, and this is what you got to think about. If you're in the right relationships with the right planners, you are a highly trusted partner.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if you are someone's highly trusted partner, you're borderline their friend.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And if you don't care how you treat your partners and friends and the situations you put them in, I think you have worse things to think about in your life than do I tell meaningful wedding stories?
Yeah.
It's like, you're not a nice person though. Like you don't get like you don't get it.
So I would say maybe you're at the point in the podcast where you're saying, I never want to work in the luxury space. I think I'm down to just keep on keeping on with my normal, venue, start charging more money, working with less clients, doing that whole world. I don't even want to work in the luxury space. This is what I would say is it's very rewarding and very fun. Like for me
too.
I love shooting this space because it's hard.
I like challenge.
It's challenge. And you're right about making friends. Like I think in this part of the industry, I have more friends now, like real friends that we just text and talk about whatever, than I ever had before. And I think it's a respect thing in a lot of ways. Like, I respect the hell out of the people we work with because you see how hard they work. And I'm like-minded people. Like, they're not a coordinator at a thing who is going to work here for a single season and move on. Like, that's not the same kind of creative partnership that I have with some of our planners that we see week in and week out, the florists that we see week in and week out, that I'm like, I want the best for this person.
Yeah, you love them.
I love them. Like, I really do feel like deep down, I'm like, those are my people, dude. Like, and also it's really fun to elevate with other people.
Oh, and to help them succeed.
Help them succeed and put them on the map. And just like, you said it about one of our planners, like, we really get to see a front row seat of this person elevate and just be recognized for how great they are. That's really fun. And to be a small part of that is really interesting
and to do something
rewarding.
that you feel that is as hard as it is.
Yeah.
And to actually pull it off, like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, to be able to pull it off and to know that you can do it. And to think in your head, like, I used to think I needed X, Y, and Z to make a good film.
Yeah.
Now I know I can do it without my binkies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like your binky of vow readings or your binky of engagement session with the couple or all the things that we've fallen into all those traps, guys, wanting to do those things. Now, I don't think our reaction was as negative as some people's, but we just came to this conclusion, like, couples didn't want to do it and we could never get them to do it. And we were just like, okay, oh well, move on. But like, we tried to do all that stuff. Interviews, like these deep storytelling things. Like, that was the beginning of our company.
Mm-hmm.
And we've always tried to bring it back because at our core, we want to do the same thing you want to do. If you're like a snobby person out there who thinks you want to tell, like, you would make a better film than Aaron Novak at the celebrity wedding he shot, you know, I get it. I get the frustration. Mm-hmm. I get the sameness of it and the boredom with the luxury wedding film and the luxury wedding space in general. I get it. But the one thing I'll tell you is, if you haven't been there, you don't really understand. It has to be that way for a lot of reasons. And I think the industry will change. It'll always change. Like, luxury weddings will change. Maybe luxury couples, if the right person made the right wedding film for the right celebrity, then everyone would want that wedding film.
Right. Yeah, and it does take time. It takes experience and showing people what can be done. And I do think that space is changing, as it is the entire, wedding film space. Like, people are doing more interesting things now than they ever have before, and that's good. We're moving in a positive direction. Even 10, 15 years ago, it would probably be pretty unheard of to have that style of wedding. Like, weddings are bigger than ever right now. The celebrity wedding is bigger than ever. The luxury wedding market is bigger than ever. So it's growing and changing, and it's exciting to be a part of it, because I think it's just probably the best time to be in luxury events is right now, for those reasons.
It's like a renaissance now of luxury. And I know, like, there's some negatives, like, that have come from the vacation we talked about on an episode before, which I don't know if we released it, to be honest. But an episode of Jason talking about, like, the death of print and like, I think there is a little bit of a void of, like, leadership in the luxury space. Like, who's setting the tone for all of us? Who's, like, the trendsetters? Like, there's a shakeup happening, and some of the old guard are kind of going out, and these are amazing trendsetters who created the industry. They're still big names, by the way. They're still doing big events. But at the end of the day, too, it's like, they're getting towards the end of their careers. Yeah. And I don't think people know what's coming next. And so maybe you'll get your way if you're listening to this, and everyone will want exactly the film that you make in the next round of luxury events. But my guess is no. Yeah. My guess is, because, like, when I see these events, I'm like, well, of course this person doesn't want to walk away with me. They haven't seen this person in 30 years. Yeah. They're talking to all these people. There's like a giant caviar and champagne bar underneath that. I wouldn't want to go take a bunch of photos. I want to eat caviar. Yeah. Like, I understand. Now I understand. And if you haven't been there, cut some people some slack a little bit. And if you ever get an opportunity to do an event, you know what I've seen a lot, and this is no shade towards people. Have you noticed that some people think they're shooting a luxury event, but they're not?
That was me probably 5 years ago. Sure. 4 years ago.
Sure. And it's like, this is what I'll tell you. If you could still do all the same stuff that you've always done at the event, you're not shooting a luxury event. Mm-hmm. Most likely. Mm-hmm. Most likely, you're just shooting a nice high-end event. There's nothing wrong with that. This is not a criticism. But just before you criticize people thinking, like, I do this all the time. Every weekend, and my films are so much better. Yeah. It's like, do you, though? Yeah. Do you shoot that all the time?
It's just like, there's nothing snobby about saying there's different levels to everything. And, like, there's other levels that I've never seen, maybe never will see. I don't expect to even be filming Aaron Novak's, clientele. But I think just realizing that there are levels to it and being like, we're doing very nice weddings right now, and it's awesome and super fun and very rewarding. But even the ones that we're doing now, the challenges that we're coming across, we're like, oh, this is new. This is new. I guarantee there's another level that we're like, oh, this is like we thought we even knew or had an idea, and it's totally different than we even expected.
I mean, you ever hear about those like those Middle Eastern
yeah, dude, Saudi princes,
yeah, and man, things like that. It's like there's always another level of pressure.
Yes,
that can go on you, and if you've never experienced,
like if you don't do a good job, they'll murder you.
Who knows? Or like literally, they'll just end your career.
Yeah.
Like and when you think about that, like you're shooting this event, and like someone like Aaron is shooting this event, right? And like you say the wrong political comment, or they find your Instagram or your Twitter, and then they can end you.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot a wedding in that condition. Mm-hmm. Shoot weddings in that condition every week. Let me see your films. And if they're better, I'll tell you they're better. But my guess is they're going to be the same because there's a reason they're all the same. Because everyone who's doing this is literally white knuckling most of the day. Mm-hmm. They're just like, we're not doing that now. Okay, what are we doing? Yeah. Okay, they got to communicate. That's what it is. Yeah. And they do their very best. And there's a reason why they get asked to come back time and time and time and time again.
Yeah.
Because the planner knows this person can handle this.
Yep.
They're not going to embarrass me. They're not going to miss important stuff, and they're not going to piss off the client. Mm-hmm. That is your priority.
Yeah.
That's the assignment, right? Yeah. It's not make a beautiful wedding film. It's get through the day, keep your head down.
And produce something that the client, at the end of the day, dude, I promise Olivia Culpo watched that film. She's like, this is great.
This is great.
She loved it.
Loved it.
She cares much more about how she looks in photos because she's a model.
Yep.
And she's used to being
That's what she does. She's a model.
She's a model. Yeah.
Great.
Kind of. Like model influencer.
Person. Internet person.
Well, she won Miss Universe. So, she's
wow.
She's a model, right?
I definitely followed the Miss Universe. I don't know how I could have forgotten that.
She won Miss Rhode Island.
She won Miss Rhode Island.
You know she won Miss Rhode Island.
I did know that.
She won that, and then she won Miss Universe. And then she dated Nick Jonas.
That's why she's a celebrity.
And then she dated Christian McCaffrey, and now she's married to Christian McCaffrey.
But dating Nick Jonas is the thing.
I think that was the thing, at least locally in Rhode Island, that put her on the map.
That's how she got all the followers.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I mean, not every person who wins Miss Universe
is a model, so
there's a modeling too. She probably worked a lot of, but she became like an LA person.
Yeah. Yeah. LA.
Like you have to become an LA or a New York person.
European person,
Like that's what makes you, if you're like live in Idaho, I don't think you're necessarily, maybe you can move to Idaho, but you got to kind of blow up in LA or New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's how she got on the map. Yeah.
So, so she did that.
She did all those things.
She did those things.
She's like, Rhode Island's Kim K, Like it's like, what did Kim K do? Well, she did a few things. Yeah. But
she did one certain thing that really put her on the map.
Yeah. But yeah. So, hey, it's great. It's all good.
I have no criticism of these people. Yeah. I just don't know who they are. That's all I'm saying.
I would say, to close, I think if I was thinking about a celebrity wedding, I think those iconic moments would be the thing that I would want to even get down on paper and look at what are the places maybe that we could get some iconic shots, and what would those be?
And you would be thinking, how do I make sure I'm not in anyone's way? That would be like first consideration.
Sure. I know at Ocean Cliff or Ocean House, there's a very cool staircase in the back that Jose Villa actually used. I was like, that's an iconic looking shot. The rest is really like her because she's iconic looking. And if you only have like 5 minutes of her and that's what you're banking on, I don't know, man. That's hard. Like, that's
They didn't go to the beach, if you noticed.
They didn't go to the beach at all. Probably very intentionally.
The tent was like dark.
Yep.
I didn't see any. So I'm assuming like there was no lighting.
Yeah. And then this is the other part, guys, is like, watch the whole film. Like, this film was literally put out in a day. So who knows? You know, there's a million things that could have gone right or gone wrong. He could have been like, oh, my computer is running slow, and I just have to get this out because
You could have had a bunch
because Vogue is knocking on the door right now, and I have
We've
to get
had
this to them.
couples go like, take that shot out. I look like I have a double chin. And we're
Yeah.
like, I don't think you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Who knows? Like maybe he had a great looking kiss.
Yep.
And then she goes, I don't like it. Take it out.
Yep.
You don't think for 1 second that this film was 100% approved by Olivia Culpo?
Yeah.
It was.
Definitely.
Her
Definitely.
people and everyone involved had a look at it and made sure it was acceptable.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you wouldn't have made a better film. Just like, this is the thing. Luxury events are hard. We all know that. If you have never done them, you really don't. Actually, like, if you haven't done them, you don't know that. Just like I don't know how hard it would be to shoot that Olivia Culpo wedding because I wasn't there and I've never done a wedding with those stakes.
Yeah.
You probably don't know either.
Yeah.
So just, realizing that and just kind of accepting that, like, as the stakes get higher, your control goes down.
Yeah. Yep.
And, and then you make the best film you can.
Yep.
With what you have.
Yep. That's it. So, well, this has been an episode.
We did one.
We did interesting episode. I think a good episode though. That's kind of our kind of train of thought as of late, doing some of these not celebrity weddings, but high end luxury spaces, and just being like, man, these are really difficult at the end.
Well,
of the
how
day.
do we stand out? I mean, that's the question we always ask ourselves is like, don't get me wrong. I actively say, how do we not make the same luxury wedding film?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can we do? And like for us, it's like, okay, I'm going to put a little more handheld, edgy shooting where I can.
Yeah.
Like we're going to.
And honestly, a lot of it isn't shooting. A lot of it is just like, I can do a better job by prepping my planner this way and helping them understand how I'm doing my job, or things that can make my job easier so that the planner and the client can get exactly what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no fogginess. We're crystal clear on what we're doing. Like, a lot of it is those kind of conversations. It's not even, how can I make a more iconic shot? Like, those are the things that I'm kind of like learning in the space.
Sure,
like,
but also like
more
we're not
political.
telling you, if you're listening to this, not to try to make the best film in the world.
Sure. Yeah.
You should
Yes.
try. If you can get couples to do these things with
Do
you.
anything in the world that you can get away with.
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Without ruining relationships.
100%.
Yeah.
But just know, like, people who are in that world, first of all, the stakes are very high. Like, if you were kept asking a person, I want to do an engagement portrait interview with you.
Yeah.
That person might go to the planner and say, this guy's annoying me. They keep asking me to do this.
Yeah.
And then that planner just, like, ends you.
Yeah.
Like, or says, like, hey, listen, you can't be doing that. They don't want to do it. Leave
Yeah.
them alone. But
Yeah.
you do not get that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm all in favor, though, of you pushing the boundary. We need people who are going to push it harder and farther and faster and
Yep.
make better films and get more out of people. Like, that is important. That is not what we're saying on this episode, that you should just settle for whatever the couple's going to give you. But just know, in reality, actually, sometimes you should just settle. Like, sometimes
Or you just have to
must.
look for the moments in other ways.
Mhm. Or look for the right couple.
Yeah.
Not every couple has to be that couple.
Right.
We've had one of them last year out of our big events that was that couple, and every other one was not that couple.
Yep.
And it is what it is, and I didn't know it till I got there.
Yep. Yep.
So that's how it goes. And so push the boundary, make the best film you can, tell the best stories you can. At the end of the day, it's families, it's meaningful, it's important, it's special. Even if it's a big luxury event and you're shooting a bunch of flowers, those are meaningful and important.
Yep.
But realize the bigger the stakes, the less control you have, and give people grace who are making films at the high end. Even if you think you're better, you're probably not.
Yeah. Guys, make sure you're checking out Wedding Film School anywhere you can find podcasts, but also our Facebook group. Very active, 16,000 members. 17,000. Did we cross 17? 17,000 members on the Facebook group. Great community chats. Also, we have 2 YouTube channels, Wedding Film School and the Wedding Film School Show, which is this show that you're listening to now. And then also check out every Thursday at 1 p.m. on our YouTube channel, Wedding Film School. We do a live film critique of your films.
Not every week.
Oh, not every week lately, but most weeks, I would say.
Whatever we can.
Jason and Bobby are on there as well. You can submit your films by going to weddingfilm.school and following the link there to submit your own wedding film for Jason and Bobby to critique. I think that's it, Jay. Guys, have a great week. Anything you want to add?
Have a great week also.
Okay.
But have a better week than Jared did.
Yes. Have a great week, guys. We'll talk to you soon here on the Wedding Film School Show.